What is up? Happy Tuesday. Tell you what. Is this the beginning of the end for Trump? Is this it? Doesn't things go sideways for him? People get angry and frustrated? Is this when it all starts to fall apart?
Yeah, it's pretty much over.
Over. This is
Done.
it. He's going to resign
Finished.
this afternoon. He's not. I'm kidding with you guys. Settle down. It's April Fool's Day.
April Fools.
We got a great, actually, like the best April Fool's things that have ever been done throughout history. And some ones that, let's just say, they didn't go the way some people thought it was going to go.
Yeah, that one that started World War I, that one didn't work out so well.
Gotcha. But I will say this. If ever there was a time where people are nervous, it is now. You can't help be. You're looking around, and I have no idea what's going to happen with tariffs. And I know everybody's like, what? I couldn't tell you. Could it happen that there's going to be no tariffs? Always a possibility. With Trump, you never know. He could show up today and go, April Fools, you guys showed up. Ah. Or he could say, it's on. This is it. Is he biting off more than he can chew? I don't know, because we don't know what, we're going to hit them with tariffs, whoever they are, because, again, I don't know, because he's been a little, like the people. Europe, we're going after Europe. Okay, who in Europe? Specifically, do we know? The people. Okay. The countries. All right. And I understand. This has been a big deal for him. But as we said yesterday, we'll always continue to say, how this works when it comes to voting is pocketbook. Is a big deal. And that includes midterms. Will there be a slowdown? Maybe, maybe not. I have no idea what is even going to happen, because this is how fast this can move. By this afternoon, Trump could announce it. By the time we get off air and Matt's coming in, he could have gone, I've paused it. And by tomorrow, they could be back on. That's the kind of stuff that can happen.
Business sentiment has gone down, and that's where the economic risk comes into play, is that businesses that face uncertainty, they don't go out and hire a bunch of people. They don't expand production. They sit back and wait for the dust to settle. And that in and of itself could be a headwind to the economy.
And you don't want that. You don't want that. What you want is certainty. Let me tell you what the economy cares about. The market itself, the stock market, it cares about certainty. It likes stability. And the stock market's a big deal for Trump. That's one of the barometers he looks at. What's it do for the average person? Are they nervous? The average person is a little, because they don't know what to expect. They don't study macro or microeconomics. They don't really understand tariffs. They just hear things are going to get expensive, not quite sure why they're going to get expensive in some areas, not sure what is actually going to get expensive, not sure how long it's going to take for some of these things to potentially hit us in the pocketbook. So it's hard to explain something to somebody. Remember, was it Chuck Schumer going out there saying, we're never going to have avocados again? And then nothing happened. Right, Jay? Nothing happened. We're working around. Avocados. Nothing happened. Because they didn't go on. And what was it? The Super Bowl, right? That's what they were talking about, the Super Bowl. Super Bowl. We're never going to have avocados. It's like, shut up, dude. You don't even know. And anyways, some of this stuff would take weeks and months before we would feel it. It is the unknown, though. People like stability. Unknown makes them uncomfortable, and this is definitely going to be uncomfortable. Bill O'Reilly talking about it, because at the end of the day, it's still about the election, and we're going to get to the big Wisconsin election coming up a little bit later. But it does matter, because as we've talked about, we talked about it with Bell, we talked about it with Ken, we talked about it with several people. You've only got a finite time to get this right and to get people feeling comfortable. People feel nervous, and we are a nation. You guys listening, a vast majority of you love Trump. But you didn't put Trump over the line. It was a lot of people in the middle that helped him get over that line, who had voted for Biden but were over it. A lot of people that had voted for Trump but weren't sure about voting for Trump again and maybe thinking about staying home, but they saw what happened with immigration and stuff and were frustrated with inflation. They were the ones who pushed them over the line. I'm not talking about the third-time Trump voter. I'm talking about the first and second-time, voter for Trump. They helped put everybody over the line, and they're a fickle bunch. And a fickle bunch of people, if things don't feel like they're going right, they will change a fast.
But he's running an enormous risk, far more than people know. Because this time next year, April Fool's Day, 2026, if the economy is wobbly and prices have not come down substantially, Democrats will win the midterms. And that's it for Donald Trump's presidency, right there.
But those are big ifs. All of those things are big ifs when it comes to what happens, because we don't know what's going to happen. He says he's perfecting it. He's getting it ready to roll. He's perfecting it. And as soon as they're ready, they're going to take effect immediately after they're announced, which could be at any moment today.
What Trump hopes is that he'll be able to make these deals on paper quickly and therefore have to take the tariffs off, which he will. All right, he's nimble. He'll do that.
Right.
And then he'll wave the paper, look at the deal I got.
Which is what anybody would do, by the way. If I got a great deal, I would do that. But you look around and you see, if things start to slow down, if the market takes a hit, because one of the things that a lot of people forget about is, yes, the market's a gauge for this, but it's also retirement for a lot of people. A lot of people support Trump. It's their retirement they're looking at. And even though it may not affect them today, in their mind, it's going to make them nervous. So you have to think long-term, right? Macro, micro kind of thing.
He believes that he can, through sheer will, make this happen.
You seem skeptical.
And he may be able to. He's not a timid guy. Everybody knows that. He doesn't play it safe. He's never played it safe, and he's won twice. So he's going to, but I think in this regard, if you see the unemployment numbers go up dramatically, if you see the stock market, that's a key for Trump. He locks in on that stock market. If it has another bad quarter, you're going to see changes. All right, you will. Quick changes. But he's going to ride it out a little bit more and hope he can get those deals. That's what he's hoping for.
And I think we will get some deals without having to do anything. And I think some other ones, you know what? They think, let's see how long we can wait out the Americans. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to you. But everybody's got a point where they say, all right, if things get too expensive, if unemployment seems to be going up, if there's a certain sense that we could be heading towards a recession, then the pivot comes there. It's the beauty of Trump. Is he biting off too much? These are all questions. These are fair questions to ask. Should we be looking at strategically going after one here, one there, or groups? We're going to find out. But all of it, though, like everything with Trump, is subject to change.
I think it's going to go forward, and it may be rocky in the beginning, but I think that this will make sense for Americans.
And we're going to find that out in a big way, starting potentially today. Again, I don't know when this kicks off. And I don't even know, does anybody have any, Jay, do you have any idea who's going to be hit with these? Does anybody have any idea?
No.
There you go.
Not really. Again, Trump is, he just plays things so close to the vest at times, and I think that's certainly part of his strategy.
Yeah. So we're going to find out. It's going to be very interesting. The other interesting thing is what's going on with the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, which sounds weird because it's a nonpartisan race that $90 million is poured into. And a lot of people are looking at this and saying to themselves, why is this a litmus test? Well, because of how much money's been poured in, because how much Trump and Elon have gotten involved in this as well, as these two candidates face off for something that is, in theory, nonpartisan.
Voters are heading to the polls here in Wisconsin for the battle over a single seat on the state Supreme Court. This could have big implications. Democrats see this as the first real test of how voters are feeling about President Trump's agenda, but it could shift the balance of power on the state court with big implications for the future rulings on abortion rights, voting laws, election laws, and potentially how congressional maps are redrawn in this state.
That's the big thing. All the other stuff means very little. It's the congressional maps in this sense that matters. Yes, abortion will be a big deal. The union things, all those things will be big. But those will be really handled at the Supreme Court level of Wisconsin and have very little to do outside of Wisconsin. The Supreme Court deciding where the maps get drawn is a different story because that would have an effect on what the makeup of the potential House looks like going forward. Right now, it's a 6-2 lead for the Republicans there. So that would be an odd thing if they get blown out. And somebody's asked, well, I've been on a couple shows today, and they said, what do you think is going to happen? I said, here's what I think is going to happen. Florida, Trump and the Republicans are going to hold Florida. A little closer in one of the races than they wanted it to be. He won Mike Waltz, that area. Trump won by 30 points. And Gates' area, he won by 68. They will be closer than that. And the Walls one is going to be with fine. It's not going to be 30 points, but it'll be closer. It's still going to be a good win, I still think. But I think in the Supreme Court one in Wisconsin, I think she gets it done. I do. I think she for whatever reason in the polls I've been looking at says that she's got a 6 or 8 point lead. And it's a weird situation. I think the Elon effect there has turned a lot of Wisconsin voters off. Even though she has received about the same amount of money, in some areas they said more, but I think the whole him being the face of the Doge and all that, and they feel like, when I was talking to my buddy who's in Milwaukee today, he said, look, it feels like that he came out here to buy an election. And that is something that I think a lot of people were upset about. So we're going to find that out. All of these things, again, it's all happening. It's all happening, friends. And it's April Fool's Day. Man, I love April Fool's Day. I've seen some good ones. Seen some ones that have failed. Did you see the one? There's been a couple good ones. The one in Sitka, Alaska. Do you remember that guy? I think it was 71. He climbed into the volcano there, Bell, and it's been dormant. He took up like 70 tires over the space of a couple weeks and lit them on fire. And everybody thought it was going to explode, and people started getting ready to evacuate.
That's brilliant.
The Coast Guard went up. It was one of those things where in your mind you thought it was funny until the police showed up.
Well, the Coast Guard's here now. We're safe.
Yeah.
From the volcano.
So somebody just said, oh, you knuckleheads keep telling me the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin is nonpartisan. No, they say it's nonpartisan. Everything is partisan. We know where everybody stands. Okay? We know where everything stands. We know that Crawford's to the left and Schneidler's on the right. We know where everybody stands. In theory, it's supposed to be nonpartisan. I'm not telling you it's nonpartisan in the sense that we don't know where it is. I'm saying that's what it says. So if you went to vote on it today, there's no R or D by their names. It's just supposed to be Judge A, Judge B. Ugh. Plenty of stuff to get to today. One organization pulled off 2 awesome April Fool's jokes that were incredible. Because we can't just talk politics all day. We got some good stuff there. Luigi Mangione, is he going to get the death penalty? Plus, California's decided, hey, we should name a bill after him in a good way because you people are insane. If you're missing the show, we say shame on you. Grab the podcast. It is The Chad Benson Show. Raycon, best earbuds around. Wear my Raycons every single day. 8 hours talk time, 32 hours of battery life. Fit, feel, and comfort. They're incredible. For me, I spend my day in a world of audio, whether I'm walking back and forth to work or I'm working all day. Having multi-connectivity, which these earbuds deliver, is incredible. Having a fit and feel that is second to none is incredible, and that's what Raycon delivers. Plus, fast charging. Every 10 minutes, you get 90 minutes of charge. It's amazing. 30-day happiness guarantee, active noise cancellation. What are you waiting for? If you want the best sound quality around, get 20% off now. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad today to save big. Buyraycon.com/Chad for the best earbuds, the everyday earbuds from Raycon. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Busy Bee Plumbing is busy, and they can put you up front. Why? Because they can. So what I want you to do, go check out everything they do at Busy Bee. They got tons of stuff going on. Spring is here, right? Making sure that you're ready for what is coming. There's still some rain out there. You want to make sure, hey, you know what? As we get ready to switch over to summer, is your air conditioner ready to roll? Are you sure about that? Because the last thing you want is to be grossed out. Busy Bee has you covered when it comes to your HVAC as well as your plumbing. Don't miss out on any of the deals. Join the Beehive Club now. And remember, you get a couple inspections. That pays for itself. Call 775-7833, 775-7833. Check out everything they do, all the deals they have. Tell them I sent you. Visit them at busybeehvac.com.
The European Union, well, let's say they're not very happy with impending U.S. tariffs. We'll have that story. Also, an officer-involved shooting in Bedford County overnight. We'll have those stories coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So Luigi Mangione, will they or won't they with him? That is an interesting thing. I mean, this guy is. I was talking to our buddy Brad Palumbo. We've had him on the show before, and he and I were talking about it today, the insanity and the love that people have around. I said, do you think people feel the same way if Luigi didn't look like he could have been, off the cover of a magazine? If he was 350 pounds and he killed this guy, would this be different? He's like, yeah. So it's a weird kind of cult appeal that this has. And we do this, right? We do this with kidnappings, right? What does they call it? The white girl effect? It's like a princess effect. If it's a pretty young girl, high school girl, college girl, and pretty, right? Like, if she's 400 pounds, nobody cares. It sounds horrible. The family does. But nobody pays the same kind of attention. But could he get the death penalty? Which was always the big thing, because originally, when they rolled all this stuff out, it was, well, based on New York, without special circumstances and without the federal charges, the chances of him getting the death penalty were slim to none. He could be out in 20 years, and you're like, oh, my God, a hero.
The administration, both prior and current, clearly wants to send a message that stalking a business leader because you disagree with business policy is not going to be acceptable in the United States. And that's where the death penalty comes in as a deterrent, the administration clearly hopes.
Because you know what you don't want? New York being the place where you say to yourself, we can't send our people there for any kind of event if they feel unsafe and that they may get shot because people disagree with them. Yeah, that's not a good. It's not just about let's make a deterrent here. It's about across the board being welcoming to other businesses. And what ended up happening here? Nothing. Nothing ended up happening. Nothing changed at all. The people and the powers that be moved somebody into his position, and they got them more security. California, though, said, hey, we got an idea. And it's not California itself. It's a group of people of putting this together, a bill that, you know what, the bill may be good, but the fact that you named it not after the victim, but Luigi, is more than a bit disturbing.
But for now, it's officially called the Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act. And the name, as you might guess, stirring a lot of controversy, for it seems to honor an accused killer. As Mangione faces a New York trial for the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, Californians will soon be petitioned on whether or not an initiative inspired by his alleged actions should make it onto a ballot in November of next year. Now, the words delay and deny were written on the bullet casings found in December at Thompson's murder scene.
So you guys remember that? Like, and everybody's trying to figure out what is delay, deny. Then they found out that's part of what they do in the world of healthcare is delay, deny, delay. They do it as long as they can. Either the person dies or eventually goes away. Still, this is not like Amber's Law, right? or Lincoln Riley or something. You didn't name it the Brian Thompson thing. You named it after this guy.
The proposed legislation would make it a felony for insurance companies to delay, deny, or modify any medical procedure or medication suggested by a licensed doctor in California, especially if denials lead to consequences such as disability, amputation, or death. The initiative specifies that delays and denials can only be made by doctors on behalf of insurers. Now, the proposal is currently under review and open for public comment. Through the end of next month, more than 500,000 signatures are required in order for it to appear on a California ballot in 2026.
So just because it's there like this, and I think we all want our doctor to be involved in all of these things, the surgeons, this, that, and the other. I mean, we hear the stories that, some of these healthcare companies are like, yeah, this surgery should take 90 minutes. That's what we're paying for anesthesia-wise. If you go over, that's on you. Like, we've heard these stories. It's the celebration of somebody who did something horrific out of cold blood that should disturb everybody. The fact that when you've got people out there who are celebrating him, saying, yeah, you should do like Luigi did, or clapping their hands when they hear stuff about him, or when they attack Tesla. And those are the things that should make us more than just pause, but look over and go, what the blank are you people talking about? No, that's not right. That isn't. If you want to put delay, deny bill, that's one thing. But having him and putting him in there shows you the cult-like personality he's built up. Speaking of that, some of the text messages coming in make me laugh. Because I don't know if you've seen some of these. We're talking about if, maybe, like when these girls get kidnapped or something, it's that pretty girl effect. And they say if it's a 400-pounder, nobody is really paying attention, Bell. But a lot of you have chimed in and say there's no way a 400-pound person is going to get kidnapped. I feel bad for that person's back if a 400-pounder gets kidnapped.
Well, you never know. I mean, we could be invoking chloroform and, heavy equipment.
Well, you don't want to invoke chloroform, right? Because you want them to do it themselves. How are you picking them up? I think is what they're trying to say.
Well, you need some heavy equipment.
You need some heavy equipment. Oh, my Lord. Coming up, a lot of stuff to get to. Talk a little bit of fun. We've had the Valentine's Day. When's Arbor Day? We have Mother's Day coming. But one of these days, April Fool's, is about fooling folks. Where the hell did it come from? We'll talk about that. More on what is going on when it comes to the tariffs. Who's getting tariff as everybody's getting nervous? It's going to be a surprise for everybody, including the Europeans. Talk about that as well. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It's 12:30, and I'm Jay Harper. I'm in for Ken Weaver, and I've got your top stories. A full forecast is upcoming. The European Union threatening a strong response to President Trump's tariffs. Here's Inez de la Catera from Paris with more.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying the bloc has a strong plan to retaliate against President Trump's tariffs, though it would prefer to negotiate a solution, adding Europeans are utterly disheartened by what's happening. Trump is expected to announce additional tariffs later this week. He has already imposed 25% on imports of steel and aluminum from all countries.
Back here in the mid-state, at the request of 17th Judicial District Attorney General Rob Carter, special agents with the TBI, they're investigating an officer-involved shooting that occurred Monday night in Bedford County. According to preliminary reports, 2 deputies with the Bedford County Sheriff's Office responded to a 911 call regarding a suicidal individual who was making threats. The deputies encountered the man in Shelbyville, and during that encounter, the man reportedly began yelling and produced a knife, followed by what appeared to be a handgun, according to deputies, and they fired at the man, striking him. He was airlifted to a Nashville hospital where he remains in stable condition. No deputies were injured in the incident. Investigation results, they'll be turned over to the District Attorney General Carter for review. And good news from that story of the missing toddler from Murfreesboro, Harley Stover, the 2-year-old girl at the center of an endangered child alert, has been found safe. That's according to the TBI. No other information has been released. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Tomorrow is going to be a windy day with gusts near 40 miles per hour at times. Then the risk of thunderstorms to produce heavier downpours, gusty winds, isolated tornadoes, and even some hail. So make sure you stay weather ready.
Berna. I want to talk to you guys about Berna, and these guys are amazing. I'm a 2A guy all day long, and so is Berna. But Berna has something unique, and it is force without deadly force. It is incredible. Something you can carry around with you all the time without having to worry about get licensed, and it will pack a punch. But it's also enjoyable, great way to learn and practice without spending tons of money going and practice. Because we know how expensive ammo can be. It's quite the opposite with Berna. So you go check them out there in Franklin. It is amazing. I've been there a couple times, and Jack and I are going to go out this week. So it's free range with the Berna launcher, right? They have CO2 cartridges. You get 10% off right now. You get out there. And I will tell you, they're open 7 days a week. And you go out there and you have an opportunity to shoot. And you have an opportunity to practice on something that I think, especially if you're new to firearms and things like that, it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. So if you thought to yourself, hey, you know what? I'd like to take my wife or my kids, maybe a little nervous about this, getting them out there like this is an amazing thing. So get out there, check them out. It is awesome. They're in Franklin. You will enjoy everything they're about. Tell them I sent you. 330 Mayfield Drive, right there in Franklin. And get out there. They're open 7 days a week, and it is a lot of fun. Go check out Berna Technologies. All right, guys. Wellness Institute in Nashville. Feeling good? No? Your back hurt? Yeah, let's put an end to that right now. Let's get it feeling better. Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Ashley, they are the experts. And you know what else they are? They're visionaries. And I say that because Dr. Mitchell's put together something is he's not treating your pain just to get you through the day. His goal is to get you through life feeling 1,000 times better. That's why I love them. So check out, they got the Big 47 going on right now. It's 47% off to celebrate Trump, 47th president. But they're offering this deal, and it is incredible. It's non-surgical spinal decompression. There's no creams. There's no magic. It's about getting you in there and getting you to feel better. You've tried everything else, right? You know, tried the mumbo jumbo, voodoo, whatever it is. No. Dr. Ashley, Dr. Mitchell, they're treating you for today and tomorrow, not just to get you through the day. Get out there and see them. Tell them I sent you. They're going to give you a consultation to get you an exam, right? That includes an x-ray. If you got your MRI, you bring it. They're going to give you a full rundown, and then they're going to build a plan that's right for you to get your back rocking and rolling for today, tomorrow, and beyond. Call them today. Set up an appointment, 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009, or go to painisbad.com. Yeah. So, April Fools. You've been fooling yourself, you say. How do you know if you're getting fooled?
On April Fool's Day, sometimes the pranks from famous brands can be obvious, like when Burger King announced they were launching a Whopper-flavored toothpaste.
To keep your mouth Whopper fresh.
Many companies will try and fool you into forwarding their content today, so let's prevent that and take a look at how they usually try and get you. Since we're talking food, sometimes those brands will be subtle. For example, last year, Dunkin' Donuts briefly changed their name to Donutses. And 7-Eleven claimed they were going to start canning hot dog sparkling water? I guess if it sounds gross, that's a good indicator of a lie.
That is disgusting. By the way, the sound of that is disgusting. Although this one I found interesting that some companies are doing today, because I think to myself, some people might do this.
This year, the Candy Smarties has teamed up with the online studying tool Quizlet to introduce a treat called Thinkies.
A candy that makes you smarter.
It helps you study, somehow. There may be oodles of pranks involving pets as well, like when Petco announced a drone that would come help pick up after your dog.
Download the app, and the cleanup drone is sent right to your pup's messy situation.
This year, though, one of the world's largest building companies, Taylor Morrison, is advertising fake pictures of luxurious custom-built pet homes.
Now, I would say there are weirdos out there that already have that. Am I right? Don't you think that?
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. There's no... Well, I mean, yeah. Look, and this sounds bizarre, but my lizards, my big guy Norm, his place was, I mean, it was tropical. Like, you wish you could live there. It was crazy. But that being said.
I mean, you're saying his habitat was?
Yeah, man, he had like a special pond. I mean, he was living the dream. He was living the dream.
And you make your kids sleep on these little beds.
I
man.
do.
It's like you take better care of your lizards.
Dude, my kids are beyond so spoiled. We're going to like Jack's here, so we're going golfing tonight. We're going to go to Top Golf, and they're like my 14-year-old stepdaughter. Talk about a dream. She's built her room into an apartment. You know, when you're a kid, you want that, right? Like, she's got a couch now and a bed like that.
You want to be able to not leave.
Yeah, she's got like this. Instead of getting like a twin, she wanted like a double, triple. So she's got all the stuff, and she's got her TV hung, and it's like an apartment. I'm like, you're living the dream. So speaking of, first of all, nobody really knows where April Fool's came from, right? Was it the French and the Julian calendar switchover? You know, Chaucer had some stuff about it. Everybody's got something.
It was the French when they said, we're ready to fight.
We're ready to fight. And some people have done some interesting stuff. Like we talked earlier about the guy at Sitka, Alaska. Boston, I think it was 1940. There were some DJs back in the day, they were just radio people, who did a fake "the world is ending" thing. And that set people off. You got to kind of remember the time. It was a little tense, if you know what I mean. And they got in trouble for that. But there's been some interesting stuff, too. And the BBC, oddly enough, has pulled off two amazing things. The first one was a few years ago, and people caught on quicker. I mean, the second one was a few years ago. People caught on a little quicker that it wasn't real. When this guy went to, well, you know, the northern coldest place to look at penguins.
This recently discovered colony of penguins is unlike any other. They don't need to huddle together every winter for protection against the bitter cold, because these little fellas can do something no other penguins can. Isn't that amazing? And how do they use this incredible ability? Well, they fly thousands of miles to the rainforests of South America, where they spend the winter basking in the tropical sun.
So people really thought penguins could fly, and they did a pretty good job with that. But it was 1957 when the BBC pulled off one of those things where somebody who thought of this should have got an award. It was incredible. This was a real broadcast from the BBC. It was only like a 3-minute broadcast. And remember, this at the time when it's black and white and everything's very stuffy and everybody talks like this when they're on the radio.
It isn't only in Britain that spring this year has taken everyone by surprise. Here, in the Ticino, on the borders of Switzerland and Italy, the slopes overlooking Lake Lugano have already burst into flower, at least a fortnight earlier than usual. But what, you may ask, has the early and welcome arrival of bees and blossom to do with food? Well, it's simply that the past winter, one of the mildest in living memory, has had its effect in other ways as well. Most important of all, it's resulted in an exceptionally heavy spaghetti crop.
That's right. Spaghetti crop. Like being grown in the ground, spaghetti crop.
The last 2 weeks of March are an anxious time for the spaghetti farmer. There's always the chance of a late frost, which, while not entirely ruining the crop, generally impairs the flavor and makes it difficult for him to obtain top prices in world market. But now these dangers are over, and the spaghetti harvest goes forward. Spaghetti cultivation here in Switzerland is not, of course, carried out on anything like the tremendous scale of the Italian industry. Many of you, I'm sure, will have seen pictures of the vast spaghetti plantations in the Po Valley. For the Swiss, however, it tends to be more of a family affair. Another reason why this may be a bumper year lies in the virtual disappearance of the spaghetti weevil, the tiny creature whose depredations have caused much concern in the past.
This is a full thing. They're in Italy and parts of Switzerland. So if you guys don't know, Switzerland, Como, Lake Como and everything, they're all right there next to each other. And a lot of people in Switzerland in a certain area speak Italian. So these people are growing, quote unquote, spaghetti. People in Britain had no idea. Some of them did, but a lot of people actually thought, because they didn't have the internet, that you grew spaghetti.
The last 2 weeks of March are an anxious time for the spaghetti farmer. There's always the chance of a late frost, which, while not entirely ruining the crop, generally impairs the flavor and makes it difficult for him to obtain top prices in world market. But now these dangers are over, and the spaghetti harvest goes forward. Spaghetti cultivation here in Switzerland is not, of course, carried out on anything like the tremendous scale of the Italian industry. Many of you, I'm sure, will have seen pictures of the vast spaghetti plantations in the Po Valley. For the Swiss, however, it tends to be more of a family affair. Another reason why this may be a bumper...
So let me ask you, would you have fallen for that? And I'll tell you why. You know, people have fallen for stuff like that all the time. And we go back to, is it the War of the Worlds, right? War of the Worlds is a perfect example. People fell for something so ridiculous in the War of the Worlds. BBC had to come out and apologize, basically say, sorry about that. We didn't mean to fool you guys so much. It shows you the power, though, of media, even back then. And back then, when you were captured, I'll tell you, I remember the first time when I moved to Europe. Oh, good God. You know, I came from here. We had cable. And, you know, you had everything from the USA networks to WTBS and all that stuff. Man, it was great. There was 4 channels in England. 4 channels, because Sky TV wasn't even around. So they've been in the dark ages for a long time. People thought that was real. I worked at a station where we pulled off the growth of telephone poles. People actually thought that telephone poles were grown. You worked at a rock station, dude. You guys didn't do anything crazy?
Oh, we did all kinds of stuff.
Just not on that day.
Not that I can remember that.
I worked at
it was a different time for me back then.
I worked at a station in Los Angeles, K-Earth 101. Big station, like a monster station. One of those things where everybody that worked there was like super famous, you know, DJs from, you know, long gone days. And one year we did it where the station became Spanish before Spanish was everywhere. And we did that for like 3 hours. And people flipped because there was no internet.
They flipped the station from rock to country on April Fool's Day, and everybody thought it was April Fool's joke, and it wasn't.
That's a great time to do it, right? Like, man, this thing's going on a little bit longer than I thought it was. I'll be damned. So, the problem is now, though, with access to everything all the time, when it comes to information, if you're already skeptical, see, I'm a skeptical guy, so I don't believe any of this crap. So I'm like, I got to double check. Even when it's something that's like kind of like, okay, is this a real thing? I got to go double check. Like yesterday's a perfect example. So if you didn't see yesterday, our buddy Kid Rock was at the White House with the president. I saw him and the suit, and I think I had to double check going, is this real or is this not real? He was there to promote the executive order when it comes to ticket gouging and bots.
Anyone who's bought a concert ticket in the last decade, maybe 20 years, no matter what your politics are, knows that it's a conundrum. You buy a ticket for $100, by the time you check out, it's $170. You don't know what you're getting charged for, but more importantly, these bots. You know, they come in to get all the good tickets to your favorite shows you want to go to, and then they're relisted immediately for sometimes a 400% or 500% markup. And the artists don't see any of that money. And, you know, ultimately, I think this is a great first step. I would love down the road if there would be some legislation that we could actually put a cap on the resale of tickets. And I'm a capitalist and a deregulation guy, but they've tried this in some places in Europe, and it seems to be the only thing that's us as artists be able to get the tickets into the hands of the fans at the prices we set. I'll be the first one to say, and I know the president doesn't like when I say this, but I'm a little overpaid right now. It's kind of ridiculous. I would rather be, you know, a hero to the working class people and have them be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. I can't control that right now, so hopefully this is a step to really be able to make that happen.
I could easily make an argument today that right there, if actually done correctly, because not a law, that bots, you know, they put that bill passed in 2016. One time they have gone after somebody for bots. One time. And as far as price gouging, God, that's gone on forever.
Like, you can have all the laws you want, but if you don't enforce them, it means nothing.
Yeah. And the fees, like, we're all, like, he's right. Like, even when it comes to, have you ever bought 19.99 roses? And you're like, $46? For what?
First ticket I ever bought with my own money was to see Motley Crue on the Theater of Pain tour. It was $14. The last time I bought a ticket, it was $90 with the fees and everything.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And they hit you. You may buy 5 tickets, and everything's digital now. You're not getting a ticket anymore. So you get a digital thing. You got to put it on your phone. And so they charge you for the download.
Which is just stupid.
Per download. I could easily make an argument. This, if they were to put this in place, will have more impact on all of our lives. But even with the executive order, it's still going to be, like Bell said, getting somebody to enforce these laws. Ticketmaster and all these other places, they have such a massive sway on what goes on in D.C. because of the lobbying that it's a tough thing for them to go after. And I'm a capitalist, and if people are, and it isn't until we decide we're not going to pay that anymore that people change. But was it 95? When was that, Bell? Or 2000 when, was it Pearl Jam tried to go around Ticketmaster?
It was in the early 2000s.
And it fell apart fast because they realized they couldn't do it. Venues were already locked in with Ticketmaster. Then the smaller ones didn't have the infrastructure to handle anything, and the logistics were too much. So you do get something for it, but do you get $50 for every ticket for it? That's a question. Indeed. Coming up, more stuff, lots of stuff, plenty of stuff. We're doing that. That's who we are, people. We're different than most. We're not just talking politics. Maybe we'll talk a little straight ahead. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Oh, Bulwark Capital. What's going on in the market? You nervous? You know, when things go down, you can make money. Most people don't know that, right? They just think you buy, you hold, you go. Get a second opinion from my buddies over at Bulwark Capital. It's simple and easy to do. Call 866-779-RISK. They'll walk you through everything that they do and what they're about, which is lower risk, lower cost, lower volatility. They don't stick you in just one market and let you sit there. It's about achieving the goals that you want and building for those goals, not a cookie-cutter solution. If that's what you want, there's plenty of those things out there. They're easy to work with, they're great to talk to, and it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. Call them today, 866-779-RISK, or check out everything they do at Bulwark Capital at knowyourriskradio.com, knowyourriskradio.com. They'll show you about lowering risk, lowering cost, and lowering volatility and give you the most upside potential. Call them. Get your second opinion, 866-779-RISK, or check them out at knowyourriskradio.com. Investment advisory service offered through Trek Financial, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Investments involve risk and are not a guarantee. Past performance not guarantee future results. Trek 24173.
Car dealers, they're seeing a rush before proposed tariffs kick in. Also, the death penalty, it's on the table for the accused killer of a healthcare CEO, and arrests of Nashville school students for making threats. That's all coming up at 1 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Luigi's going to be on the table if that thing goes the way they think it's going to be. Guess what? The death penalty is on the table, and so are you, Luigi. So are you. You guys want to hear something crazy? And I find this fascinating. You can price yourself out of everything. And that's what we need to figure out in Tennessee, how not to take something and screw it up. And I've seen it in a lot of places. This is, I forget the guy's name, the guy that's from Severance, and he was on, I was at Community or Parks and Rec, with Rob Lowe talking about, so Rob Lowe's got that show that's out, that game show now. People, it's not filmed in America. And it's insane to find out where it's being filmed and how much cheaper it is to do this.
That's interesting that you shoot the floor there. It's cheaper to bring 100 American people to Ireland than to walk across the lot at Fox. Right. Past the sound stages and do it there. Crazy. Do you think if we shot Parks right now, we would be in Budapest? 100% we would be. We'd be in Budapest. We would be... It's so weird. There's nothing shoots in Los Angeles. Nothing. Just too expensive to shoot here. There are no tax credits. So like all those other places are offering 40%. Yeah. 40%. Oh, yeah. And then on top of that, there's other stuff that they do. Yeah. And then... Yeah, and that's not even talking about the union stuff. Mm-hmm. That's just tax economics of it all. So it's criminal what the California and LA have let happen. It's criminal. Everybody should be fired.
My buddy spends, now he lives in LA, he spends more time in Georgia and in Bulgaria filming than he does in his home. And my friend, she's a big time attorney for several movie companies, like big time. They fly her out to do all the stuff on sets where they have to, you know what? I hate to, you have to go through all the sexual harassment training, even if you're a star, on these sets. And they don't shoot there anymore. She goes, I used to drive down the street. I know that anymore. Now I have to get on a plane and go somewhere to deliver these things because they've priced themselves out of it. So think about this. They're shooting a television show for America that's a game show in Ireland, because it's cheaper to pick people up, say, we're going to put you on an airplane, fly you over, and they don't fly you over on coach, right, and put you at the Motel 6. They don't do that. No. You're going over there, you're going to fly at least business class, and it's going to be nice. You're staying there. That's nuts. That's how expensive it is to do that. What are you people doing? Then you got Texas, right? Because we should be fighting for these dollars, people. I'm telling you guys right now. We got land, we got opportunity, we got gorgeous areas. We should be fighting for some of these dollars. Texas is fighting for some of these dollars, except for, well, you know, bad language.
If we do this, we begin to create our own industry,
says Matthew McConaughey. But the money may have strings attached, as illustrated by the Paramount Plus show Landman, starring Billy Bob Thornton.
You don't with our product, we don't with yours.
Republican Senator Paul Bettencourt.
It's not something I want to see on television, and I certainly don't want us to put our money behind it.
Fort Worth, where Landman is shot, is embracing the show, bad language or not.
What are you doing? Get your panties in a bunch, clutch your curls. They said a bad word. And so what? Don't watch 1923 then, which I love. It's like my favorite show. Because I'm here to tell you, there's more than just bad language. There's nudity. You might see a girl's breast or a butt. We don't want to scare people. We should be in this situation. Being a hub. Nothing wrong with being a hub, people. Nothing wrong with that. Coming up, second hour, a lot of stuff to get to. I think we have a misinformation, disinformation hearing going on in D.C., Plus, did Trump get it right or wrong, the administration, when they shipped somebody out to El Salvador? Talk about that. Chad Betts Show, Super Talk, 99.7.
Good afternoon. It is 1 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper in for Ken Weaver. We'll have a full forecast for you here in a few minutes, but here are your top stories. If you're looking to buy a car to beat the car tariff price increase, it's apparently just chaotic out there. Tariffs set to go into place tomorrow. Here's Alex Stone. He's out in California.
At Walnut Creek Toyota in Northern California, the dealer sold 70 cars over the weekend with buyers trying to beat the tariff clock. Many buyers are accelerating their search because of fears that President Trump's car tariffs could cause prices to rise dramatically unless they're rolled back. This man says he fears if he doesn't buy now, the tariffs will mean he can't afford the car he wants.
That would put us out of the out of the market of buying this car.
At Cox Automotive, they're predicting cars impacted by the tariffs will go up in price 15 to 20%.
Attorney General Pam Bondi, she's directing prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Bondi called the killing premeditated and cold-blooded, adding Mangione is a risk to others. Here's ABC's Aaron Katersky with more.
Clearly, the Justice Department wants to send some kind of a message, and that's been consistent from one administration to the next. Remember, the crime was committed while Joe Biden was still president, and it was the Biden administration that pushed to have him charged in federal court in addition to the state charges that Mangione faces, and that was done in anticipation of just this, him facing the death penalty as a possible deterrent to putting other CEOs in danger like that.
Back here in Tennessee, 2 middle school students here in Nashville, they were arrested this week in separate incidents after allegedly making threats of violence against their schools. That's according to Metro Police. A 14-year-old student at John F. Kennedy Middle School, he was charged with false reporting and making a threat of mass violence after allegedly telling classmates he would be the next school shooter. In a separate case, a 13-year-old Wright Middle School student was charged with false reporting after telling a peer he planned to bring an AK-47 to school the next day. While no weapons were found and no one was harmed, police are emphasizing that these kinds of statements are taken seriously. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Tariffs, and more tariffs. 20% tariffs, I'm hearing. Again, you don't know what these are going to look like. Trump may change it midway. I was going to do 23.5 now because it's down and I don't want it. It's got to be 23.5. It's a good number. 47 seems to be a good number. Europe's sitting there going, what's this guy going to do? You know what? We'll find out. Rush out to get that car. Settle down. Don't do it. Let's just see where these things go from here, okay? I think we can all agree sometimes a lot of stuff is said. People will go, and then what ends up happening? Nothing. It's a situation where you're going to have to let it play itself out. And I'm going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't mean I trust him 100% in any of this stuff because you never should. You never should. I think you need to have not so much, and I think a lot of people out there, we need a more skeptical eye at some of these things. I mean, I would love it if we brought back all this manufacturing, went back to the 50s, and it'd be great, it'd be wonderful. It's just not going to happen. Not with the way we consume. And there's also no guarantee that if we brought all these jobs back, that Americans or human beings are going to do them. That's also the other side of it. But I'm going to give him the benefit of that. I wanted to succeed. Do I know exactly what it looks like? No, I don't think anybody does. Are there risks? Of course, there's 100% risk in this. 100% risk in this thing coming back and potentially not going the way that people want.
Business sentiment has gone down, and that's where the economic risk comes into play, is that businesses that face uncertainty, they don't go out and hire a bunch of people. They don't expand production. They sit back and wait for the dust to settle. And that in and of itself could be a headwind to the economy.
Because businesses want to be moving forward. And when they don't feel that they can, when they feel that we're not sure exactly which way we're going, we're not sure if you're going to put these things on and stuff's going to be more expensive, right? I saw yesterday that was it 1,200 steel workers got laid off? Makes people uncomfortable. It does. Well, if it's not your job, again, we live in it. How does this affect me, right? If it doesn't affect you and you're doing okay, well, that's okay. Because that's where the world revolves around you. My world revolves around me. But as a whole, there's a chance for this thing to get uncomfortable.
The current supply chains, a lot of those were built out over the course of 10, 20, 30 years. And now if you turn trade policy on its head, you can't just wave a magic wand and change those supply chains.
Will it end up in a recession? Simple answer is that's what everybody wants. Black and white. Will this slow things down and we go into recession, or will this just play itself out over the next several weeks and it may give us a little stagflation, but it's not going to really do anything and put us into recession? That's what people want to know.
A lot of economists kind of put those odds at 15 or 20%. And now they're putting those odds at 30, 35%, maybe even 40%. So the odds have gone up. They're still low, but they're rising. And they're rising as the risks and the uncertainty rise.
And that's all you want to know. That's it. I don't care about the nuance of it. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want to know, is this going to put us into recession or is it not? Because that's how we vote. That's how we look at the life. For better or for worse, we look at life in that situation. Is this going to hurt me and make it so my business slows down and you lose your job? I don't know. I don't know what your job is. But we're going to find that out over the coming days and weeks. And with Trump, right? With Trump, and this is one of the things, as we all know, he will do things that people don't think about outside the box, which is what we love. It's why a lot of people like him and love him. And this has been a huge deal for him for a very long time. Trump has hated the fact that we have rebuilt nations off tariff, telling them, Germany and Japan, tariff us 100%. Rebuild your country on our economy. Well, times are a-changing. But when you've conditioned people to be price and consumer-based, that's a hard thing for people to get past. Makes them uncomfortable. Absolutely. There is a big thing going on in Wisconsin today. Big cheese festival. And a vote for the Supreme Court that a lot of people are looking at. What would happen here? Is this the litmus test that people are worried about when it comes to the likes of Elon? More so, I think, than Trump. Trump's gotten behind the guy that is running as the Supreme Court. Again, this is supposed to be nonpartisan. You're not supposed to know if they're right or left. We all know what's going on. Is this going to be a win for Trump where they go, look, we won in Florida and we've won here. We've got the mandate.
That could have big implications for future rulings on abortion rights, election and voting laws, but also the way the congressional maps could be redrawn in this state, which could ultimately determine control of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Which is why this is a big deal. So I talked to my buddy who works out there, and he says, people are frustrated and feel like Elon came to buy an election. Came to buy an election, which is, even though both a $90 million for a Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin, $90 million is poured into this, and I would say $89 million has come from the outside of the state. But some people were very upset with the visibility of Elon and the push and the giving out money, and that was a big turnoff.
So many Wisconsinites right now are upset. They're distressed. They're looking at what Elon Musk is doing to our federal government. This unelected South African person is doing to the things that they've relied on their entire lives. Social Security, Medicaid, you name it. People are uncomfortable. They want to use their voices, and that's why they're here.
I think it's really important to vote for somebody that isn't bought and sold by the current administration, because our government is getting gutted. And people need to realize that. If Musk is going to come to Wisconsin to try to buy his votes, people ought to know that it's just bribery.
The Elon injection is really destructive. And offering $1 million for a vote has got to be illegal, right? Come on. So I am already voted in favor of Crawford. I'm trying to save democracy.
Of course you are. I love it when people are trying to save democracy. You know what? Thank you for your service. So stupid. I'm trying to save democracy, Bill. I voted trying to save democracy. We'll find out what that's like. I think tonight, the way it goes is both wins for Florida to the Republicans, and I think Wisconsin's actually going to go, which is more of a litmus test. I think Wisconsin is going to go for the Democrats tonight, even though, again, nonpartisan, but we know exactly what's happened. And I like to know. I like transparency. Case in point, I don't know what the transparency is on a person who is in MS-13, but wasn't in MS-13. There was a clerical error. There wasn't a clerical error. Did we make a mistake? Did we not make a mistake when we shipped somebody to El Salvador?
The Trump administration tells a federal judge in Maryland that ICE made an administrative error last month, detaining a man who had been protected from deportation by an immigration judge and who has an American child with his U.S. citizen wife. That man is now in El Salvador's notorious prison for terrorists, and while the administration admits it was an error to send him there, it also insists he was an MS-13 member and that there's nothing the courts can do about his deportation now.
Which would absolutely suck. Now, Carolyn Levitt came out earlier and said, it was a clerical error. He is a human trafficker. He's all of the things. I don't know what to believe. I don't. And I don't trust just what you tell me. I think we should all want to know exactly what's happening when it comes to people being sent somewhere, and A, what it's costing us, and B, we're sending somebody there. This person's a baddie, and we know that a vast majority of these people are, but to think that we can't make mistakes and that we shouldn't ask questions is not right.
First of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader, of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Fact number four is that foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore, and it is within the president's executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals from American communities. It is a promise he campaigned on. It is a promise he is keeping. And every single person in this room should be grateful for that, considering especially MS-13 is very prevalent and prominent here in the District of Columbia, in Maryland, and in Virginia. And the president, the attorney general, everyone who has been involved in these operations is focused on eradicating these criminals and terrorists from our communities.
Great. Look, you're going to get no argument. MS-13, I know as well as anybody how bad they are. I know how bad they are. I get that. I absolutely want to be able to say, great, show everybody the proof. Because what that does is it once again strengthens the case of how bad the last administration did and how transparent, and that's what we want. Right? I want to be the most transparent. I want to know what's going on. So far, how's that Epstein list? Anybody? Anybody? Bill, you got it in there? They give you the Epstein list?
I accidentally threw it away. I didn't realize what it was.
Oh, that's right. But you kept the MLK and the Robert F. Kennedy list. Or does Jay have those?
Jay has those.
Jay, I knew Jay had those. Right? And Ken took the rest of the Epstein list with him. Still waiting for those. Right? We're waiting for a lot of things. And that we were promised. And if you can't ask the question about, getting it right, which is what we want to do. It's not about whether or not I want Trump to succeed. Hell to the yes. I believe that the things he does with all his heart is actually the things that are better for America. But I also believe that I don't believe all of what I see and hear out of administrations. And that includes this one or any of them. Nor should you. Look, I talked to my buddy who is in the military-industrial complex, if you will, and we were talking the other day about Signalgate. And he said, first of all, just to let you guys know, Waltz and Goldberg, they know each other. He came out, it's like, I have never seen that guy before in my life. Well, really? Because here's pictures with you guys together. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That was just at a party. Okay. His number just ended up on my phone. That's not true. None of that's true. And Goldberg, by the way, I mean, you can come out and say he's an awful human being, but a perfect example of you guys are telling us stuff that really isn't true. Just be honest. And this stuff goes away. And we should want these kind of things. We should demand them from every administration. And I don't expect them to tell us everything, but every once in a while, I should expect them to say, we measured twice and we cut once. And we got it right. We absolutely did. No doubt. Because, yes, if you think that they're going to get it right every time, well, you're fooling yourself. Nobody does. One guy got it right all the time, and we saw what happened to him. Coming up, a lot of stuff still to get to today. I have maybe the dumbest thing that I think nobody could be this stupid. But then you find out, if you've met a lot of America, the stupid is strong, right? The stupid is powerfully strong. And for whatever reason, it is taking over a lot of America. And we need to reverse the trend of that. Talk a little bit about that. There's a hearing going on in D.C. about disinformation and misinformation, which, of course, we love, because whoever is the person that gets to decide what's true and what's not true, you're the one who decides what's disinformation and misinformation. We'll talk about that as well. Reach out to us across all of our social media. I love hearing from each and every one of you. Check out my Twitter, at Chad Benson Show, my Instagram, same thing, Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe. Appreciate it when you do that. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Birch Gold. Gold in them there hills. Why is gold important? Because it protects you. In times of uncertainty, say like now, it protects you. Smart money heads to places where they know the opportunity to grow is there, as well as should things go sideways in other parts of the investment world, it protects you. That's what gold can do, and still opportunities to get into it. And that's why I'm going to text Birch right now. Birch Gold. They're awesome. That's where I buy my gold. You text 989898. When you do, just type the word Benson in there and send it off. They're going to get you out an info kit. Let you take a look at what they're all about. You're seeing more and more people, investors and big banks and stuff, starting to go over and hedge themselves when it comes to gold because they're uncertain about what's happening globally, from geopolitical to inflation to potential for recession. That's why Birch Gold is so important. Text the word Benson now to 989898. Let them get out an investor info kit for you, let you take a look at it and what it's all about and how they can help you with your 401k, your IRA, and move it over at no cost to you. That's the word Benson you text to 989898 for Birch Gold.
So, does President Trump have Republican support for a third term? We'll have a story on that. All remains now of missing U.S. soldiers in Lithuania have been recovered. And protesters at the state capitol this morning. We'll have those stories at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Third. It's enough with the pretend I'm going to get you're not. It's not happening. Stop it. Stop it. Stupid is strong in America. And we've seen that in a lot of ways. But this is not only stupid, this is cruel. This is what happens when you're 15 or... Okay, quick. Bell, have you ever dashed and dined? Even as a youngster. I'm not talking about last week.
I don't think I have.
Jay, have you ever dashed and dined?
Never. No.
Oh, you guys are good people. I've never dashed and dined either. But,
I mean, it sounds like something I would do, but I don't specifically recall ever doing it.
You're probably drunk. You're probably just, you drunk and wandered. Totally different. No, I mean, it's like anybody's dashed and dined when they're kids. Okay, maybe I'll give it to you. If you got a kid and you've got no food, okay, I could see that. How about if you're going to go out and party with your friends, wear crazy outfits, be on video? Yeah. This is nuts.
3 women from Rochester, New York were here in Chicago to celebrate a birthday and left behind one heck of a surprise. They decided to dine and dash after greasing their fingers on chicken wings, eating Alfredo, and washing it all down with flights of drink.
Now you see them and now you don't. We've blurred the video because the trio hasn't been charged yet. But you can't miss that distinctive blue wig and the massive tab they left behind.
They asked for the ticket to be split. She left from this table behind me. As she left, they got up one at a time and walked out.
First of all, stop splitting the ticket, okay? Everybody, you got Venmo. If you really need the money back, that's it. Every server I've ever talked to, man, once they get a split ticket, they know it's going to be a long night. They do. So these people dash tonight. They're adults, by the way.
3 days ago, the 3 women from Rochester, New York visited Soul Vibes in the Near North neighborhood to celebrate a birthday and left behind a surprise, an unpaid tab of over $200.
And they actually ran out the door and ran and hid behind a service vehicle that was in traffic.
They decided to dine and dash after devouring chicken wings, Alfredo, and washing it all down with flights of drinks.
It's not violent, but it's a crime, and it affects us, and it affects our bottom dollar, and it affects our team members.
You don't think about, like, you think, oh, it's a nonviolent crime. It's $200. That's $200 lost to a restaurant. Prices go up. That is time. That's just off the meal. Think about the time for the people getting you the stuff, the chefs. All of those things start to add up. The advertising, all of that stuff. It adds up.
They were spotted on surveillance, leaving one by one within 30 seconds of the server stepping away. They also forgot that they signed up on the wait list before being seated, including their name and phone number. And to add insult to injury, they posted this onto social media, thanking the restaurant for the free food while laughing at waitstaff like Chloe Jackson.
I'm here 3 days a week. Some places do make the servers come out and pay for those bills, but Fab and Soul Vibes here, they don't make us pay for it. Well, that's really grateful because $300, $400 could really break our bank for that day.
You posted that you committed the crime after leaving your name and all of your stuff as you waited before that little thing went brr, brr, and you went to your table.
They should be prosecuted just for being stupid.
For stupid. Stupid should hurt.
On top of the theft, they should be prosecuted for being stupid.
They should make them work there, and stupid should hurt. It should hurt big time in this situation.
Sadly, dine and dash incidents are on the rise.
When you get these dine and dash incidences, the consumer or the people who are doing this dine and dash might think, oh, it's just $100. Yeah, but it's hurting the bottom line.
If charged, the suspects could face a Class A misdemeanor for theft of services under the amount of $500. That's punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $2,500 fine.
Make them go there and work it off. And actually put the fine. So let's just say the fine is $1,000. You make them work that $1,000 off at the restaurant. All the hard crap. So they have an understanding of what they did wrong. Stupid should hurt. I don't understand the fascination with doing something so ridiculous and then posting about it, right? Like, okay, when I was talking to our buddy Brad Palumbo earlier today, I get the click economy, right? Where even if you're crying, you're upset about something, you put it out there because you want likes and clicks, the endorphins. This is, you're breaking the law and you're bragging about it. That's not click economy. That's dumbassery. You should get a $1,000 fine for what you did, and you should get a $500 fine for stupid. Coming up, what's going on? Are we going to have tariffs? Oh, we're going to find that out. It is April Fool's Day. Are you a fool in love? That was a song. Who did that? I messed around. I was a fool in love. Nobody? I like it. I see the wheels spinning.
Jefferson Starship did. No, that was Elvin Bishop.
Elvin Bishop.
Elvin
Fooled
Bishop.
around
Okay,
and
there we
fell
go.
in love.
See? We got a lot
Still
of
Mickey Hart.
Still Mickey Hart. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 997.
Good afternoon. It is 1:30, and I'm Jay Harper in for Ken Weaver. I've got your top stories. We've got your forecast as well coming up. Despite the fact that President Trump has not ruled it out, the top Republican in Congress, well, he's not exactly on board for another Trump term. Stephen Portnoy, he's in D.C., and he has more.
The House Speaker throws cold water on the idea of a third Trump term. Mike Johnson says while he and the president have joked about the prospect,
there's a constitutional path. You have to amend the Constitution to do it, and that's a high bar.
It involves ratification of an amendment by 38 of the 50 states. Johnson says he believes Trump understands that.
I think he recognizes the constitutional limitations, and I'm not sure that there's a move about to amend the Constitution.
The remains of the 4th U.S. service member who was killed in Lithuania have been recovered. The Army soldier were the 4 Army soldiers. They were in a military vehicle when it crashed into a swampy area and then sank. The White House briefing today was attended by the press secretary, of course, Caroline Leavitt, where she offered condolences.
The President, the Secretary of Defense, and the entire White House are praying for the victims' friends and family during this unimaginable time. This is another stark reminder of the selfless sacrifice of our brave military men and women who risk their lives around the world every day to keep us safe. God bless them.
Here in Nashville, a protester was carried out of the Capitol this morning after a Senate committee advanced a proposal targeting undocumented students. The bill would allow school districts to check documentation of students and require undocumented students to pay tuition. Supporters say it could ease the burden on school districts, but opponents are questioning the motivation of a bill that runs in direct conflict with a 1982 Supreme Court ruling. Some protesters refused to leave the hearing room after the vote. The state senators with Finance, Ways, and Means Committee spent 30 minutes discussing this legislation before they came to a 7-4 vote. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Coming to the mid-state, I'm WSMV4 First Alert meteorologist Stefano DiPietro. Good sunshine this afternoon. Temperature's going to make it back into the 60s today. Tomorrow is going to be a windy day with gusts. Beacon in 15. Then the risk of strong thunderstorms tomorrow evening into the overnight. Highest severe weather risk is going to be in northwest middle Tennessee and parts of southern Kentucky, but everyone needs to be prepared for thunderstorms to produce heavier downpours, gusty winds, isolated tornadoes, and even some hail, so make sure you stay weather ready.
Beacon Capital Management has your retirement ready toolkit available. Why don't you give them a call? Go down and see them. Beauty of them is they're local. It's a great opportunity, especially if you're in retirement or near retirement. 615-488-9303. Simple and easy to do, to head on over there and talk about what you may be worried about, especially with all the news that's coming out, the worry about the market maybe going in another direction. You want to make sure you don't have to unretire and you don't want to outlive your retirement. So that's why the Retirement Ready Toolkit is there for you from Beacon. It's no cost, no obligation, and absolutely no pressure. So what are you going to get? A Money Enough for Life book, retirement planning checklist, and a Maximizing Your Retirement Income white paper. And they'll walk you through what's going on because they understand retirement's not just about, your money. It's taxes, it's healthcare, it's all of the things. They can help you with everything. So call them today, find out what they can do to help you, and give them a shot to just sit down and have a chat. Call 615-488-9303 or find them online at askbeaconnow.com. Going to Topgolf tonight. Somebody said they make great Bloody Marys. It is odd that they let you drink like 4 or 5 stories up and then swing a golf club over an edge. Don't worry, though. They got a net. It is weird.
Where is this place? Is it
Nashville, like downtown?
It's just off of Broadway. Is it the big? The big net.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna go there, and we got it's food and
not Broadway, 65.
I mean 65. Yeah. So we're gonna have my son's here, and he's super excited because he's got a new 3-wood, and we're gonna go hit, and he's all jazzed up. But even when I go out there, and I'll take a swing, you'll kind of look over, and you're like, oh, that's it. You miss. It's.
So they have driving ranges that are basically stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
And you're all shooting out into the same. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Then they should be like, if you're a teetotaler and you're sober, you should be up top. If you are drunk, you should probably be on the bottom.
Yeah, I'm willing to hang out in the bottom.
Yeah, it's
have one of those Bloody Marys with the bacon in it.
Because it's an interesting thing to watch because. And if you've ever been, you guys know, you kind of always look around and go, all right, if anybody's going to fall over this thing, it's that guy over there. Because golf's one of those things where, okay, it can be fun if you're a little, I don't drink, but you're out playing. I've seen guys have a few pops that loosen up their play a little better. Bowling, by the way, is one of those great, I've seen people get hammered and I threw a 300,
Overhand.
That's fantastic. You can bounce it down. I don't like it, though. I don't suggest it at all. To throwing it down there like that. That is, we'll see. There is this sense of is somebody going to fall in the net? That's like those nets they have in China, those suicide nets.
Oh, yeah, outside the buildings so people can't kill themselves by jumping.
You ever see Daniel Tosh do that? Where he's where there's hey, they got those nets, they jump. Hey, don't worry, boss, I'm back. I just want to get a little fresh air.
Springs you right back to your desk.
Oh, my Lord, that is funny. Speaking of Daniel Tosh, I got something funny. I think if I pulled it about Canada. I've got it somewhere. I've got so much stuff. You ever get so much crap in this thing? The interesting thing that's going on, there's a bunch of hearings going on today. And tariffs, there's lots of questions about tariffs. Lots of questions about the Signal Gate, which it's not a story that's dead, by the way. As much as they say it is, it isn't. And there's a lot of Republicans that are concerned. Waltz is on thin ice right now. And here's the thing. His seat is actually up today in Florida. His seat is up, and he's on thin ice. Apparently, Trump is pissed with him because they think a lot of the stuff that's been leaked has been leaked through him, which is always a possibility. There's always a leaker in every White House. Always, because you want to get stuff out there, and sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's not. But he's on some thin ice, and it's going to be – wouldn't it be hilarious if he was let go, right? So they say you got to resign, and your seat now that you just won has now been taken over by somebody else. We've all been there.
It'd be a litany of bad decisions leading to that.
Absolutely. Speaking of bad decisions, what's his name? Elie Mystal was on The View today. If you don't know who he is, he's straight out of Central Casting. He's got, he's angry all the time at the right. Everything the right does is racism, sexism, misogyny, et cetera, et cetera. And now that's where they live at. They had him on talking about all the stuff that's going on, including immigration.
One of the laws you write about is playing out right now, the Immigration and Nationality Act. Now, this administration is using this statute to justify the detentions and possible deportations, actually, of Visa and Green Card holders who they seem to deem a threat to U.S. foreign policy. What do you make of the administration's use of the act? And more broadly, is Trump really setting up a First Amendment showdown, which is what Whoopi's been talking about?
Yes, absolutely. One of my premises for the book is that every law passed before the 1965 Voting Rights Act should be presumptively unconstitutional, right? But because before the 1965 Voting Rights Act, we were functionally an apartheid country. Not everybody who lived here could vote here. So why should I give about some law that some old white man passed in the 1920s?
We had our issues, there's no doubt. The rest of the globe had issues as well. And we can go on. I mean, this is the thing. Everybody talks about, it's a slave. You know where slave comes from. You know where the word slave comes from? Slav. Right? Like every nation has had their issues with the evil that is slavery. Every nation. And that includes, by the way, Africa, which has had plenty of and still continues to have plenty of issues with slavery and a caste society. Have we bounced back? Well, I don't like what Trump's doing. Well, I didn't like the fact that the guy before you, who was incoherent, and there's a book coming out, we'll touch on that a little bit later, about how bad it was. It's the first of what will be many books that is going to come out about the last president and how bad it was. I didn't like the fact that he allowed basically 12 million people in here, 10 million, to just have access to our border all willy-nilly. Nobody should have liked that. So you not liking what Trump is trying to do, and look, I am not a fan of grabbing some student off the street, right, using ninja-style tactics, like it's the IRA or ninjas. And do we not have better things to do with our time? And yes, the visas for students, they've got a lot less leeway than some of the others. But I'm not a big fan of that. We could do a better job. Do you really think she's going to get away? Do you really think that come on, we can do better than that. But why is it, where's the nuance in the conversation? Why can't it be, hey, I want to get rid of all the bad people here. We do need to find out what we're going to do with some of the other people here, because we're not going to get rid of, we have 700 judges and how many millions of people that are waiting to be adjudicated. So how do we speed this up? Because we're not hiring 1 million judges, so we better figure something out. But let's get the bad people first. Let's get them out of here. And if you don't want the bad people out of here, what are you doing? If you're the Democrats, this is why you lose. You run at the dumbest, stupidest things you can find. And yes, like earlier today, somebody said, because we were talking about that potential of that guy from Maryland who's a father who is here. So he came here, I think, in 2011. And then there was a notice to be removed. And then there was a hearing, and he got essentially asylum. And then there was a notice for him not to be removed, but they removed him, and they said he's part of MS-13. We want due process. We want all these kind of things. We want these things adhered to. We have a system. We need to follow the system. We need to let it work. We need to go after the worst. There's no doubt we have plenty of them here. But if your thing is, I don't want anybody removed, or it's all or nothing, you're an idiot. And this is why you fail. This is why you will continue to fail over and over again, because you pick the worst things that you can run at, and you run at them. Yesterday's a perfect example. It was Trans Visibility Day. This is the ACLU lawyer talking about women in sports.
The policies that are claiming that transgender women in sports are men are wrong. The president is lying when he says that there are men impersonating women and participating in women's sports. There are no examples of men impersonating women that I am aware of. And it is incorrect to refer to transgender women and girls as men and boys. And what these executive orders do, what these laws do, is open the door to sex-based police. The policy.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And this is a perfect example of a hill you want to die on. So you want to keep everybody in here. Everybody has even if you're completely legal and you might be part of a game. No, we want to keep you here. Just why? What's the rationale for that? It's the same thing for this. It's not a lot of men and boys in sports, but that's not what this is about. This is about forcing you to accept something or do something based on what they say. Or if you get rid of an MS-13 member, that somehow that is bad. Why? Well, he didn't have due process. Even if you had due process, I have news for you. Even if they all had due process, you don't think they'd still be out there complaining? Oh, you know they would. They absolutely would. Because it's an all or nothing. Nuance is lost in this country. And the same thing goes because I want to know who's being sent out. Somebody texted earlier, we were talking about that potential of, was that guy really part of MS-13 or was he not? Was it just a clerical error? And people are like, I had several people say that's what due process is for. Yeah. And we need to do better so we can show, look, you allowed this to happen. You allowed people to come in here. You allowed people to cross the border. You made it hard for it to get anybody removed from this country. And we've got a massive problem in that sense. The damage in some sense may be done, but we can't just accept that. And that's why we want the due diligence. That's why we want the due process. That's why we want to measure twice, sometimes 3 times, and cut once. But it's nuance that is lost. Not everything is black and white. And unfortunately, we live in a world now where only people think when it comes to black and white. And it's not black and white. I'm not talking about color. I'm not talking about that. Carolyn Levitt.
The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang.
They maintain that. And that's why we should go, okay, well, is it the proof? Or do we have that? I mean, he was here for a while. He had been before the courts. Where's the proof in that? So that way you take away all of the ammo that, the media has, because the quicker you shut something down, or the quicker that you get everything out there, the faster a story dies. And that's what you want in this occasion. You want the story to die fast. You don't want it built up. Same thing with Signal. We were just talking about earlier. It's a stupid story where you had a bunch of people who were doing something that in theory should have been classified, and it wasn't. And I'm not going to say the Signal app is a bad app, a good app. I've used it a couple times. I don't use it that much. Now that I know that I might get some secret plans, I might get on it more, but I don't use it that much. That being said, you come out, you do your mea culpa, you fall on the sword, and then you say, we're moving on. But when you change stories and you give half stories and I don't know this person and it's not this big of a deal or that person's bad, it becomes a bigger story than it should be. Absolutely. Trump and tariffs, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Man, 20%. So what I'm hearing is it's a 20% across the board, all goods coming into America. 20%. If we saw a bump in prices across the board, how long could you go to hopefully get this thing done and dusted and we get on level playing field when it comes to our trade deficits? It's an interesting question. We'll talk about that, a bunch of other stuff. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. By the way, I don't think Tim Walz is very masculine. Just going to point that out to you. Just letting you know. But you know what? He could use some lean. Lean is good. Lean is great. Yo-yo dieting sucks. How many times in life? Everybody's done this. Bell's done this. I've done this. I'm sure Jay's done this. You drop 25 pounds. You feel good. You got that shirt that I'm going to hold on to this one. And then all of a sudden it fits again. You're like, I'm feeling nice. And then all of a sudden, you put on 30 pounds. Doesn't fit anymore. Don't do that. Get off the yo-yo dieting. Get with Lean. Lean's incredible. You can get 20% off right now. I take a couple pills a day. There's no prescriptions. There's no injections. I feel great. Energy levels through the roof. And great thing is it kills the food noise that goes inside your brain, those cravings and stuff. Science, doctors, they put this thing together the right way. On top of that, maintains a healthy blood sugar. And yes, the third of the big three takes the fat, converts it into energy. Burn, burn, burn. Get off the yo-yo insanity. Get with Lean. Go to takelean.com right now. Use code Benson20 and you get 20% off. That's takelean.com. Get off the yo-yo dieting. Use my code Benson20. Save 20%. Takelean.com. Code Benson20.
The European Union threatening retaliation for impending U.S. tariffs. An officer-involved shooting is being investigated in Bedford County, and arrests of Nashville school students for making threats. We'll have those stories coming up at 2 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
People texting in about the people that were sent to El Salvador. Look, we should all, every one of us, right or left, should want bad people out of this country. Absolutely. 100%. We shouldn't even, the fact that anybody would say, no, I don't want to do that, that is stupid. And I'm talking about people that have come here legally. You should have to go. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. But the due process is a good thing for everybody. Because the whole goal, right, and this is what Trump and his transparency, it's about, I'm going to be as transparent as it gets. You're never going to have anybody more transparent. I'm going to answer all the questions. I'm going to do all the things. Great. When people say, take our word for it, no, I don't. I don't take anybody's word for it, nor should you. When your kid said, hey, take my word for it, a lot of times you're like, nah, well, they've earned it. Trust but verify. And it's good because we don't want to be like the others. And I'm not just talking about other presidents, other countries. We don't want to be that country. We want to be better than that country. Whatever country they point to. We want to be better because we do better. We are the ones who are the leaders. We are the ones who puts people, even people that you would think, no, they shouldn't have any of this. No, we put them in a situation where they had their process. And it's over with. And it didn't work. And they didn't get what they want. And now they have to leave. Tariffs, 20%? Possibly. Carolyn Levitt's having to answer questions about tariffs, which has to be just boring as hell. I would have to say that'd be boring. Carolyn, what do you think?
You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation. It was a record low 1.4% when he left office.
That is true. It's not that I don't trust the president. It's not. That was then. This is now. And I think, you've got a lot of people out there, and I would like to hear from you guys. Can text the program. How long, if prices jump for the next 3 to 6 months, for some people out there, and a lot of people I hear from, they're retired. They're not on a super fixed income. They've done okay for themselves. So if prices go up a little bit, but if you're on a fixed income, or if you're in a position where you're living close to that line, yes, a bump in certain things is going to scare people, seniors.
The president takes those concerns very seriously, and he's addressing them every single day. And tomorrow's announcement is to protect future generations of the senior citizens you mentioned. It's for their kids and their grandkids.
Yeah, but senior citizens that are alive today, they're worried about living for tomorrow. Right? It's not just about getting up. I hope I wake up tomorrow. It's about, can I put food on the table? And that's what people worry about. For a lot of you listening, maybe you don't live that close to the line. Maybe, a bump here and a bump there isn't a big deal. But I think everybody's got their threshold. And as we were talking earlier about, the worry that Trump may pay attention to as people start losing their jobs. I had several people text us here, said that they've just lost their job, or a bunch of people were just laid off here. That is a worry. Absolutely. Talk a bit about tariffs. Not too exciting. Got a lot of other stuff to get to as well. If you're missing the show, grab the podcast. And we always say, shame on you.
Good afternoon. It's 2 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper in for Ken Weaver. I've got your top stories. A full forecast is also coming up. The European Union threatening a strong response to President Trump's tariffs. ABC's Inez de la Catera has more from Paris.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying the bloc has a strong plan to retaliate against President Trump's tariffs, though it would prefer to negotiate a solution, adding Europeans are utterly disheartened by what's happening. Trump is expected to announce additional tariffs later this week. He has already imposed 25% on imports of steel and aluminum from all countries.
Here in Middle Tennessee, at the request of 17th Judicial District Attorney General Rob Carter, special agents with the TBI are investigating an officer-involved shooting that occurred last evening in Bedford County. According to preliminary reports, 2 deputies with the Bedford County Sheriff's Office, they responded to a 911 call regarding a suicidal man making threats. The deputies encountered him in Shelbyville, and during that encounter, the man reportedly began yelling and producing a knife, followed by what appeared to be a handgun to police. Deputies then fired at the man, striking him. He was airlifted to a Nashville hospital where he remains in stable condition. No deputies were hurt in the incident. The investigation results will be turned over to District Attorney General Carter for review. And here in Nashville, 2 middle school students in the city were arrested this week in separate incidents after allegedly making threats of violence against their schools. That's according to Metro Police. A 14-year-old student at John F. Kennedy Middle School was charged with false reporting and making a threat of mass violence after allegedly telling classmates he would be the next school shooter. In a separate case, a 13-year-old Wright Middle School student was charged with false reporting after telling a peer he planned to bring an AK-47 to school the next day. While no weapons were ever found and no one was injured, police emphasize that these kinds of statements are indeed taken seriously. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
This is a headline. Are you guys ready for this? From chiseled six-packs to sharp cheekbones, prosthetics are on the rise in fashion. Wait, what? Yeah, people are, that's part of the new 2025 fashion show in Paris. Apparently, butt-revealing jeans, animal prints, and prosthetic torsos are the hot new thing. What are we doing, people? What in God's name are we doing? Still waiting to find out what the tariff mystery, I like how they say it's a mystery. It's the eve of the plan, the mystery of the plan. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. It may not come at all. It's always a possibility as well. I think we recognize with Trump, these things can come and go. Why they're important, though, is because we are and this is one of those things that I've talked about before, and I will continue to talk about. We have to retrain us as a nation. We've spent the last umpteen decades being consumer-based. So not manufacturing, but consuming. We export ideas, import cheap goods. It takes a lot getting used to. Cutting off the cheap Chinese goods, cutting off, the stuff made in Pakistan and India. It takes a lot to get, we like that. But it's not an overnight thing. And for Trump, he's got a finite amount of time to get this right. Because you don't get it right, we know what happens. Midterms roll around. And you want to get it right. And we've talked about it since the day he was sworn in. You've got about 6 months or so to absolutely get it right before people start tuning out and saying, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. Because we are a very fickle nation. Very much so. And the last thing you want, if you're him, is to lose people. Because the people, like a lot of you who text me, you support Trump through and through. I mean, you don't care. I mean, you're sold for the cause. You support him through and through. You're willing to stick with him. But think about the average voter who isn't 24/7 politics. Who isn't really tuned in the way that a lot of our listeners are. You guys are tuned in. Those people who helped put Trump over, they didn't vote Trump potentially for the third time. May have been the first, may have been the second. But they're a little frustrated, I think, by the ways some things have gone. And the thought of a potential slowdown in the economy does scare them, and that is understandable.
But he's running an enormous risk, far more than people know. Because this time next year, April Fool's Day, 2026, if the economy is wobbly and prices have not come down substantially, Democrats will win the midterms. And that's it for Donald Trump's presidency, right there.
Because that's Bill O'Reilly talking about this. And why he says that is, we're like, he would still have 2 years. No, you don't understand. He'd have 2 years if they lost the Senate and they lost the House of absolute nightmare of coming after him 24/7, maybe trying to impeach him again, although I think that would be a little bit much. But I think what they would do is they would just halt anything he did, make his life a living hell when it comes to trying to get anything done at all. So you've got to play this thing right when it comes to tariffs because it is about the economy. It's about what you and I spend. If you're living at the edge, if you're living in a situation where, 4 or 5 years ago, you were living pretty damn good, but all of a sudden, you're living paycheck to paycheck. And if you needed 4 new tires today, you might get one. You might get one. Like, because we've all been there, right? You walk around, you're like, all right, which one can last another, couple thousand miles? Well, you don't want it to get any worse than that.
What Trump hopes is that he'll be able to make these deals on paper quickly and therefore have to take the tariffs off, which he will. All right, he's nimble. He'll do that. Right. And then he'll wave the paper, look at the deal I got.
And I think that there will be some of that because I think some of these other nations, but we're taking on the EU, we're taking on Mexico and Canada, we're doing all of this. We've got a lot of, fronts open in the tariff battle that's going on. So as we're doing this, some are probably going to capitulate much quicker. Some aren't. And if it doesn't affect you, then you don't care. But if it affects enough of a large swath of people, that's when people get nervous. And I want Trump to succeed. I want him to kick ass. I want this thing to roll deep, and I want them to capitulate, just like you do. Somebody said their free ride is over. Yeah. We built their nations after World War II, in particular Japan and Germany, not by handing them money, by going, all right, here's the deal. We're going to let you import a gazillion things, and we're going to pay for it all and rebuild your nation off tariffs. Those days are gone now. Yet, many of these things have been around forever. And if we don't produce it, so widget A we don't produce, we shouldn't be tariffing it because we don't produce it. But if we do produce it and you don't let us sell, understand that, yeah, we're going to be a little perturbed by that. There's no doubt. But this is a political gamble in some people's minds. I don't think it's going to go on as long as some people think, but you never know.
He believes that he can, through sheer will, make this happen.
You seem skeptical.
And he may be able to. He's not a timid guy. Everybody knows that. He doesn't play it safe. He's never played it safe, and he's won twice. So he's going to, but I think in this regard, if you see the unemployment numbers go up dramatically, if you see the stock market, that's a key for Trump. He locks in on that stock market. If it has another bad quarter, you're going to see changes. All right, you will. Quick changes. But he's going to ride it out a little bit more and hope he can get those deals. That's what he's hoping for.
I think we're all hoping we get some good deals. Somebody just said, I can get some $2 gas. Trump's off the hook for me. If you can get some of that cheap gas, that'd be nice. I expect gas prices to go up because they're going to switch over to the summer blend, and we're going to see some of that stuff. I expect some of that. We're getting towards Memorial Day. People start traveling. There's always a bump. So those things happen. But if we can get some of these things under control, great. If we get some of these deals, great. For some products, they may go up. Now, the manufacturing, and I always hear that, we're going to bring back manufacturing. That takes years. And in some cases, 5 to 10. And it doesn't mean that jobs are returning here. It doesn't, because think about 5 years from now where robots and manufacturing will be. Because if we don't change our mindset and we still want to be consumer-based where we're going cost-based only, where, hey, some over here is $5, but something kind of similar is $2, we're going to go $2. That's still a tough thing if given the opportunity. And we're going to find that out. Craziness, chaos today. There's a hearing going on. Nina Janikowski, I think she was going to be the disinformation czar. Do you remember that? She's on the Hill getting grilled about misinformation, disinformation, things of that nature. And I find this to be funny because she's talking about Matt Taibbi and the quote-unquote Twitter files.
Thank you, Ranking Member. Mr. Taibbi said when he was first searching through the so-called Twitter files, he didn't know what he was looking at. Well, he still doesn't. Everything looks like a conspiracy when you don't know how anything works. And let me tell you, there was no censorship going on at the Global Engagement Center or the State Department. You may have heard Mr. Weingarten kind of make the inference that all of these lists GDI and NewsGuard are making, you might have thought that they were funded by the State Department. They were not. Do you know what the State Department was funding for those two organizations? Something I think the Republicans on this committee would be very interested in. Tracking and countering Chinese state propaganda targeting Americans. Now, I used to manage State Department grants early in my career. I know that that is a huge fiduciary responsibility. You have to account for every single penny that you're spending on travel, on staff time, on supplies, and you have to do it multiple times a year. So for folks to sit here and say that grants dedicated to countering CCP propaganda were somehow spent on conservative blacklists is just ridiculous. And I'll also add that that is those organizations' speech to be able to do research and categorize news sites as they see fit. A letter sent to the Senate last week shows that actually a lot of conservative organizations, including the Heritage Foundation, the Wall Street Journal, Reason, Cato Institute, and the Washington Free Beacon all received great ratings by NewsGuard, while the Daily Kos only got a 45 out of 100. So this nonsense about bias is just frankly not true. And it's also rings a little bit like a restaurateur who got a bad review in the Washington Post, mad that nobody wants to eat there anymore.
Well, it goes back to a lot of different things. First of all, who gets to decide what's misinformation, disinformation, and that kind of stuff? And the whole grant thing, again, we got to look at the way we hand out grants and this insanity. Do you realize how much money the government brings in? We're talking trillions of dollars. We can't fathom that kind of money. We can't fathom the kind of money where if you bought a brand new Rolls Royce today or Bentley and you spent $1 million on it, or Bugatti, interest alone in something with that kind of money, if the key that you had for it fell on the ground, it wouldn't be worth your time to pick it up. That's the kind of money we're talking about. So much. And the crap that we hand out. And when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, there's a lot of nuance in it. And it's always about the eye of the beholder and who wants to tell the story. Who gets to tell the story? Matt Taibbi didn't know what he was looking for because he was handed something and said, go look through this. But you can't tell me there wasn't biased. And one person came out today and said, well, that's because the Republicans, they've got more stuff that needs to be moderated than the Democrats. No, it's because you guys got to choose what was moderated and what wasn't. The other day, here's a perfect example of Facebook. So for my national show, they were running an ad for my national show on Facebook. So it was just a test. The test is, in some of the markets I'm in, I was up against Dan Bongino. And the test case was they were running me and Dan. Like, Dan is gone to the FBI, and I'm da-da. You know what they said? That's factually not true. And that's what they sent us, that they couldn't run the ad because that wasn't true or couldn't be proven. Wait, what? And of course, you have nobody to appeal to, and that's the frustration that so many of us got. And it came with COVID and a bunch of other stuff. And I don't always, look, I am the least conspiratorial of a lot of people. I'm very skeptical about so many things. But shouldn't I have the right to ask a question? Like when Bell tells me the earth is flat, I can go, well, Bell, explain how the earth is flat. I'd like to know.
Well, you explain to me if it's not. Why is my map flat?
It's a good question. But then we do have globes.
Just admit you're wrong.
You can't put a globe inside of your car.
I can flatten that globe out.
Could you? But I don't care that you think the earth is flat. But shouldn't I have questioned, shouldn't you be allowed to think that? And if you have questions, be allowed to answer that? Shouldn't you be allowed to ask some of these questions? Being shut down. People got frustrated. And the reason that we don't trust, perfect example is our healthcare community in particular, is because it became about politics. It never became about a patient. Never became about a lot of different things. It became about a narrative and politics, not about treating people. It became about control. And so if you can control the narrative and you can control the conversation and you can control the words, well, that's a win. That's a win for people. So, yeah, there was a ton of frustration around all this stuff. And when you got her, remember, she was going to be the disinformation czar. Think about that. How 1984 Orwellian was that insanity? Hey, we got our disinformation czar. You know who the disinformation czar could be? An oracle that knows nothing but data and facts and truth and has no opinion on any of it. Here it is. You make up your own mind. We don't have oracles as much as we'd like them, as much as we would. Coming up, a bunch of other stuff still to get to today on this beautiful April Fool's Day. Are you fooling anybody today? Probably not, because everybody knows. That's why you need to do a joke like this on like the 15th. Makes people feel like, you got me there. It's the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk, 99.7. Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com. Vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9. Right now, they want to give you a $20 jumpstart value for free. All they ask you to do is cover the cost of shipping. Top of that, there's a 90-day challenge going on. Now, my dogs have been on it for quite a while. It's fantastic. So what do you do with the 90-day challenge? Well, once a day, scoop right on top of your dog's food. That's it. You don't have to do anything other than that. Watch what happens. After 30 days, improved big time when it comes to their coat being shinier and their energy level. By day 60, fuller coat, less shedding. Definitely going to see a huge, real big, especially your dog's a little bit older, improvement in their joints with their mobility, as well as their immune system. By day 90, well, we're talking about better digestive tract, heart health improve, energy levels are still strong. It's like a whole new dog. Try a Jumpstart trial bag and take the 90-day challenge with Rough Greens. Go to roughgreens.com. Use my code CHAD. That's ruffgreens.com. Use code CHAD.
The White House today insisting that the father from Maryland who was deported to El Salvador should stay there. And protesters at the state capitol this morning. We'll have those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
How arrogant are you to think that you deserve to go through life with no one ever saying anything that you don't agree with or like? I want people to stop saying that joke's offensive. I want them to start saying I found it offensive. Because that's all it is. You're just telling me how you feel about it. There's nothing intrinsically offensive about this joke. It's trying to make I'm offended sound important.
That's so true. You have no right to go through the world being not offended. That's what we want. We're going to legislate speech and offense. And it used to be you protect people's speech, especially speech that you don't like. That's the only one that needs protection. Now, it's not what you say. It's how it's taken. It used to be sticks and stones, break my bones. Now it's none of those things. It's, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You said something I didn't like. So I'm completely offended by it. No, it's not the way it should work. And I love that what Ricky Gervais said there. You don't have the right to go through life in a situation where you don't like what somebody says, you want it gone because it offends you. And it is crazy that we live in this time where it's bizarrely 1984, right? Like having a disinformation czar who I don't trust, by the way. No offense, ma'am. I've seen some of the information you've put out there. And no, I don't trust a lot of what you're saying. I don't trust a lot of what comes out of administrations, of many things. This is where the due diligence comes in. And most people out there will not do that. And that's the scary part. Most people won't ever go, you know what? I don't know if that person's telling me the truth. They go right away and say, you're a liar. And then that's where they leave it. No. I'm still interested in the whole thing with this, and several of you have texted in about this potential, is this guy who was deported, the father, should he have been deported? Should he not been deported to El Salvador or not to El Salvador? Was he here? Yes, he was here illegally, but he also had orders not to be removed. Why was that? Was he really part of a human trafficking MS-13 gang? Was he not?
The judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior.
Oh, okay. So you could just ignore the judge. We just want to know, yes or no, can we ignore the judge? Or not? I mean, I think that was the question. Should we just ignore the judge? No. Shouldn't ignore the judge. And several of you are like, they don't have any due process. Actually, they do. Whether you want to believe it or not, they do. And it's about doing the right thing. And some people have said, what about all the January 6 people? They didn't get their due process. Did you like that? Well, they're citizens. No, it's not. It's about giving people their due process. Because I am skeptical that we're going to get it right 100% of the time. We should demand that our government does better. And we should demand our government, being this administration, does the best. Show me, tell me. Just like you say, well, you know, you wouldn't believe what Biden said. Well, that's because he showed us you couldn't. I don't believe what anybody says. We should have some skeptical look at a lot of this stuff, which we won't because, you know, tribes. Lots of tribes out there. People are terrified to offend their tribes. What time? Do we know what time tomorrow, Jay, that they're announcing this? Are they announcing it today, tomorrow? When is this announcement on tariffs supposed to happen?
It is supposed to happen tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern in the Rose Garden.
No, I beg your pardon. I never promised you a Rose Garden, but if I did, I would tariff it. So I'm hearing 20%. I don't know if you've seen anything different on all goods out of Europe. So that would be interesting. I don't know what the market's doing, but if you're worried, don't be, because we got this, right? This is going to be fine. That's what I hear. It's going to be fine. I hope it's fine. I absolutely do. I want this president to succeed. I want this administration to succeed. I want them to show everybody, look, you guys have lived off of us forever and a day when it comes to our tariffs. And it's time that we gave a little back. But I also recognize I'm in a different position than a lot of other people. So could I handle a little bit more? Yes. And a lot of you have texted in and said, yeah, I can handle it for a while, because I think everybody's got their sell-by date. At some point in time, they think, this might get a little too expensive. So we shall see. Coming up, bunch of other wackadoos on Capitol Hill. We got Hank Johnson. You guys remember Hank Johnson? Oh, Hank's saying some other wacky stuff, but he may have one of the greatest, wackiest things ever said. We'll play that and relive some of it and talk about his new wacky stuff and his fear-mongering that's going on in Capitol Hill, because it is hilarious. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30, and I'm Jay Harper in for the vacationing Ken Weaver. I've got your top stories. We've also got your forecast coming up. The White House sticking to its claims that the father from Maryland, who a judge ruled could stay in the U.S. back in 2019, should not be allowed back into the U.S. The White House, though, did admit it was an administrative error that caused him to get deported to the prison in El Salvador. But White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she said that without providing specific evidence, however, the man was a member of MS-13. Here, a reporter asked a question about the judge, and Leavitt said that the judge is working at the direction of the Attorney General.
The judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior.
Here at the Tennessee state capitol, a protester was carried out of the Capitol grounds this morning after a Senate committee advanced a proposal targeting undocumented students. The bill would allow school districts to check documentation of students and require undocumented kids to pay tuition. Supporters say it could ease the burden on school districts, but opponents, they're questioning the motivation of a bill that they say runs in direct conflict with a 1982 Supreme Court ruling. Some protesters refused to leave the hearing room after the vote, and they were carried away. The state senators with the Finance, Ways, and Means Committee, they spent 30 minutes discussing the legislation before they came to a 7-4 vote. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Tomorrow evening into the overnight. Highest severe weather risk is going to be in northwest Middle Tennessee and parts of southern Kentucky, but everyone needs to be prepared for thunderstorms to produce heavier downpours, gusty winds, isolated tornadoes, and even some hail, so make sure you stay weather ready.
You want peace of mind when it comes to your home? USS, United Structural Systems, is ready to help you with that because you don't want standing water. You don't want to be in a position where you could have wood rot, mold, all of that nasty, nasty stuff that's out there. And there's so much of it. We got more rain coming. Don't let something little become something big. Have it USS come out there. They're going to give you a straight up, no pressure look at everything and give you a full inspection at no cost to you. They got over 30,000 satisfied customers. And that's what makes them the best is they've been around for 30 years and they deliver time and time again. So if you're saying to yourself, you know what? I've let some stuff go too long. Things are getting a little weird out here. We got some more standing water. I'm kind of scared. USS is there. They're ready to help you. Call them today, 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855, or check out everything they do online at USSTN.com. Prize Picks. Prize Picks is awesome. Right now, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And baseball's here, which is phenomenal. You've got hockey rocking and rolling, and you've got, yes, the playoffs when it comes to basketball heading towards us. So how does Prize Picks work? You're not choosing teams or spreads. It's over. It's under. It's above or below. So Shohei Ohtani, do you think he's going to get more than 1.5 hits tonight? Do you think that, let's go and switch to a different sport altogether, that LeBron James is going to have more or less than, say, 7 assists? You picked a lineup. Everybody picks a lineup. Your first $5 lineup. When you use my code Chad, when you download the app, you get $50 instantly. Right there. It's that simple. Win or lose when you play your first $5 lineup. So what are you waiting for? It's fun. It's easy to do. You can win 1,000 times your money. They got tons of great offers. Go now, download the Prize Picks app, use my code Chad, and get that $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be 21 and present in Tennessee. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Hank Johnson's crazy. You guys don't know who Hank Johnson is. He says a lot of crazy things. So he's on the Hill today delivering wacky stuff. But anytime he's speaking, it's just a time to talk about the crazy things he has said in the past. First, let's hear what he had to say today.
A climate of fear and trepidation has descended upon the nation. The people of America are more afraid today for our democracy and for their personal safety than ever in our lifetimes. College students have disappeared off the streets paramilitary style by plainclothes, mask-wearing individuals and held incognito for days before they are discovered thousands of miles away in some private for-profit ICE detention facility. Why? For exercising their free speech First Amendment rights.
All right, that's Hank there. Now, I'm going to go back a few years. Hank Johnson, again, this is a guy who is currently one of the people that represents parts of the United States of America. Talking about the island of Guam, which, by the way, I'm pretty big on Guam.
From shore to shore, and at its smallest level, or smallest location, it's 7 miles between one shore and the other. Is that correct?
I don't have the exact dimensions, but to your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very small island, and about 24 miles, if I recall, long. So 24 miles long, about 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island. And
now, he's talking to like an admiral here, right? We're talking about military stuff. He's talking about Guam, the island, and here comes the money shot.
I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can certainly supply it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
He could barely keep it straight. No, sir, we don't anticipate the island tipping over and capsizing.
The tip of this subterranean mountain is not going to tip over. Actually, I guess it would be sub-oceanic island.
He said that out loud.
He'll never live that down. That'll be on his tombstone.
No, it should be. A lot of people are hitting that up. I felt so bad for that admiral. Oh, my God. He said that he's a person who represents us and said, hey, do you think Guam's going to tip over if we get too many people on one side of the island or the other? It didn't say, do you think it'll sink?
He should have just said, well, Hawaii hasn't, so we're hopeful.
Oh, my Lord. Tomorrow, Trump's going to announce the big things. And there's going to be a ceremony. Because with Trump, there's always got to be a ceremony.
The White House says President Trump has made his decision on his tariff plan that he'll announce tomorrow in a Rose Garden ceremony. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the president was meeting with his trade and tariff team today, but she wouldn't give specifics on what he's going to release tomorrow, but said the tariffs will be effective immediately. Pushed to address Americans' concerns about prices going up, Leavitt said,
"You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation. It was a record low 1.4% when he left office."
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
So trust. People trust until it hits their bank account. People trust until they can't anymore. And it's not that they don't believe in the president, because I've had several friends who are not thrilled by this because they work in industries, in particular the car industry. One of them has a distribution company where they send parts to be assembled elsewhere. And there's a worry there. And he voted for Trump. And he's like, this pisses me off. And he goes, I go, do you regret it? He goes, not now. But yeah, there comes a point in time where, it affects you in such a way. That being said, we'll find out if this even goes, because we all know that Trump at times has said, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then halfway through, and I think it was Mexico and Canada the first time that they decided, hey, we are going to put these things on. And then he's like, I'm going to hold off. And then it was like, well, no, they're going back on. Then I'm going to hold off. And then Mexico, we didn't really hear about. And then it's just been a big battle with Canada. And I think Trump just enjoys messing with Canada. Speaking of messing with, several of you liked this earlier. If you didn't hear it, I think you will. BBC, 1957, April Fools did an actual piece that fooled a portion of their country. Remember, it's 1957. There's no interwebs. There is none of that stuff, okay? There is just BBC One, BBC Two. I don't even think they had ITV back then, which is the other television station, or Channel 4. And they did something to fool the Brits.
It isn't only in Britain that spring this year has taken everyone by surprise. Here, in the Ticino, on the borders of Switzerland and Italy, the slopes overlooking Lake Lugano have already burst into flower, at least a fortnight earlier than usual. But what, you may ask, has the early and welcome arrival of bees and blossom to do with food? Well, it's simply that the past winter, one of the mildest in living memory, has had its effect in other ways as well. Most important of all, it's resulted in an exceptionally heavy spaghetti crop.
Excuse me? Did you say a spaghetti crop? You guys are aware that spaghetti isn't grown, right? Like you get that?
The last 2 weeks of March are an anxious time for the spaghetti farmer. There's always the chance of a late frost, which, while not entirely ruining the crop, generally impairs the flavor and makes it difficult for him to obtain top prices in world market. But now these dangers are over, and the spaghetti harvest goes forward. Spaghetti cultivation here in Switzerland is not, of course, carried out on anything like the tremendous scale of the Italian industry. Many of you, I'm sure, will have seen pictures of the vast spaghetti plantations in the Po Valley. For the Swiss, however, it tends to be more of a family affair. Another reason why this may be a bumper year lies in the virtual disappearance of the spaghetti weevil, the tiny creature whose depredations have caused much concern in the past.
There's no such thing as a spaghetti weasel. There's no such thing as any of these things. People bought this hook, line, and sinker.
After picking, the spaghetti is laid out to dry in the warm alpine sun. Many people are often puzzled by the fact that spaghetti is produced at such uniform length. But this is the result of many years of patient endeavor by plant breeders who've succeeded in producing the perfect spaghetti. And now the harvest is marked by a traditional meal. Toasts to the new crop are drunk in these poccolinos. And then the waiters enter bearing the ceremonial dish. And it is, of course, spaghetti. Picked earlier in the day, dried in the sun, and so brought fresh from garden to table at the very peak of condition. For those who love this dish, there's nothing like real homegrown spaghetti.
Oh, the Brits. I love that. I remember, you probably don't, well, maybe Jay, you remember this, if you like sports. Do you remember when, was it Sports Illustrated had Sid Finch
Oh, gosh. Blast from the past.
Yeah. The guy that could throw a fastball 168 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah, I had forgotten all about that.
Yeah,
what a prank.
That was spectacular as well. There's been a lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones, too. There's been a lot of stuff that failed. Big time. But it is, nobody knows where April Fool's comes from. Some people think it's the French and the Julian calendar. Some people say as early as the 1300s with Chaucer came up with something about April foolishness and whatnot. Nobody really knows. We just like having pranks. It's a lot of fun. And I thought the BBC is so boring. And I had friends who worked at the BBC. It's very much like NPR. It's very, very boring, very staid. It's nice to have on your resume, but that's it. Oh, that Sid Finch thing was great. Oh, God, that was good. Definitely something that made me laugh. Somebody just texted us and said, because we were talking earlier about how long can you survive if there's a downturn in the economy because of tariffs? Now, I don't think tariffs are going to be around much more than 24 or 48 hours. Some may be longer. And, somebody said, hey, people need to stop being selfish. It's for the betterment of the future of our country. Yeah, I get that. But if you're an average person who is living in a situation where you have limited amounts of funds, you're on a fixed income or, what's that old saying? Do you have $1,000? Like if you needed it today, could you get a hold of $1,000? A lot of people couldn't. So for some of us, it's not a big deal. It sucks. It gets a little bit more expensive, but we're going to be okay. But for others, no. So I get the long-term outcome of what you're aiming to do, but you're also trying to make sure that you hold serve and keep the House and the Senate. And because we're a fickle bunch, because we are a nation that easily starts to think, oh, if things get a little rocky, we throw in the towel or we get frustrated. And sometimes, even when things aren't rocky, we just get very frustrated with, this side's got too much power. So you're always walking that weird fine line. And, Trump definitely understands that. He gets it more than most. Today is one of those situations like where everybody's looking at Wisconsin and what's going to go on in Wisconsin and what's this nonpartisan, Supreme Court race that nobody would care about if it wasn't for the fact that we are so divided and a seat here or a seat there could tip a lot of things.
That could have big implications for future rulings on abortion rights, election and voting laws, but also the way the congressional maps could be redrawn in this state, which could ultimately determine control of the U.S. House of Representatives.
And that's what this is about. It has nothing to do with abortion or, whether or not you can unionize and the right to work. It has all to do with right now, you get to draw up the map and you guys have a 6-2 lead. If you didn't get to draw up the map and we got to do something different and it went to the Supreme Court, that lead may change because we could draw it up in what they would consider a fairer way. And all of a sudden, your 6-2 lead, which is what they have in Wisconsin, would change. And if you don't have a 10 or 12 seat run in the House, that's a struggle for you. If you have 1 or 2 and you could see 1 or 2 leave, and that would have a big play potentially in 2026. That's why Elon and Trump are pushing so hard because they recognize what might happen. Coming up, little Matt Murphy. See him wandering around. Hair's looking dazzling. He's ready to go. It's beautifully sunshiny outside. A spring day of fun and frivolity, I say. Matt Murphy, straight ahead. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Broadcasting live in 3D black and white. What's going on? Matt Murphy in the house.
Hello, Chadley.
What's the word, my friend?
I don't know. You tell me. We're talking on the radio. I don't know what the big deal about Cory Booker talking so long. We talk a long time.
We do
talk
talk
for
a long
like
time.
10 hours a day.
Yeah, but we're not trying to run for president in 2028.
Oh, there you go.
That's
makes
why. He's not doing it because it is important to the United States of America. He's doing it because it's important to his brand.
Important to Cory Booker to get back in the top 5. Way too many Gavin Newsoms and, Kamala Harris is up there.
Stephen
he needs to
A.
get back in
Smiths.
the. Oh, no, well, yeah, Stephen A's probably ahead of Cory right now.
I think Stephen, if you were to ask a bunch
Pardon
of.
me, my butt's ringing. Pardon
As
me.
it does.
Yeah,
That's a joke, everybody. April Fools.
My apologies. Oh, yeah, it is April 1st, isn't it?
It is. We just played the when the Brits were fooled by their own
Spaghetti
BBC
trees?
over the spaghetti crop.
Spaghetti trees?
Yeah.
When there's spaghetti trees?
There was a spaghetti tree at one time, but this was a full crop. They did a whole thing. I was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
And they had flying penguins.
There was I get it. I mean, there was a time when that kind of stuff was fun. It's not fun anymore.
Well,
where's because everybody, you get to a breaking point where everybody's trying to top themselves. I did a thing back in Birmingham that worked. I felt like it worked in as much as the mayor of the city of Birmingham called the radio station and told us to stop it.
That's cool.
So that means it worked, right?
Yes.
It's one of those things where you always have to, in radio, you always have to walk a line of it has to be cutting edge enough where it's dangerous, but there has to be some level of grain of truth in there so people believe it. But if you're walking that line, you never know when you're going to topple into the abyss of you just got fired.
Yeah, there was that guy that got fired last week. Did you see that? All on what? All on
social media.
Social media.
It was the Chicago guy, right?
Yeah, having nothing to do with anything other than arguing about somebody else's kids.
Yeah, he threatened to meet the guy somewhere to beat him up, and then told him he knew where he lived and he would dox him.
Are we not going to get any follow through?
On what?
Follow through on what? The
story? Yeah, what's the story?
He can't tell the story because he may want to do it again.
I was going to save it for my show. Why would I do the great story on the Chad Benson show?
That's right. Don't do that.
It had to do with the cops. It had to do with the cops.
Wow.
You do that back in the day. You try to come up with the April Fool's Day pranks.
When I worked in Los Angeles, I was saying earlier, I worked for a big station. This is pre-internet. So the internet was so new that 70% of people couldn't even get. They didn't have the way to get on it, and it was still dial-up.
They didn't have AOL in the dial-up.
So we did a thing where we turned the oldie station, which was the #1 station, into all news, and then it was a Spanish station or something.
Oh, yeah.
It was people freaked out about it. And the news covered it and stuff. But nowadays, we're also jaded, and we also have everything at our fingertips. If somebody's trying to play a joke, we'll look that up. If somebody's trying to talk to us about politics, and we may not like what they're saying because it could be true, we'll be like, we'll just won't look that up. That's
right. They might be telling us the truth. It might go against my narrative or belief. So God
my
forbid
affirmation could be attacked.
God forbid I should realize that I'm doing something wrong. No, I mean we did a thing way back when they were going to change the name of the minor league baseball team because it's the Birmingham Barons, and we did something like they were going to change them back to the Birmingham Black Barons. Because they used to be the Black Barons, and there were the Black Barons in the Negro Leagues, and there were the Barons where only the white players could play. We did that thing. That went over fairly well. But the one that I'll tell in the 3 o'clock hour is pretty good. It involved because there was a situation in Birmingham going on where there were accusations of an over-aggressive amount of policing, and then that spilled into racially charged accusations. And so I'll go ahead and tell you, the black mayor of Birmingham, a man by the name of William Bell, was trying to kind of quell all of this. And we came on the air that morning, April 1st, and said, we have been in conversation with the mayor of Birmingham, William Bell, and he has let us in on an ordinance that he's going to present in front of the city council that to stop all of these accusations of racial profiling within the Birmingham Police Department, henceforth, only black police officers will be allowed to arrest black suspects, and only white police officers will be allowed to arrest white suspects. Therefore, there will be no accusations of any sort of, racial animosity or suggestion that, one race of people. Anyway, people believed it. And, I mean, bought into it. And this is probably 15, 20 years ago.
And the left is probably like, that's really probably what should happen.
Well, yeah, right. Somebody goes, this is a great idea. This will solve everything. So, I mean, it was good enough where we get a call from the mayor's office. The mayor's office said, you need to shut this down right now. And so we did. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. We had to go on the radio and shut it down. But, you win at that point.
Yeah, totally.
So
They absolutely win.
So I felt like that was a really good one. You got a good response. You got a good reaction. There were some people that called BS.
It was in the news, grain of truth.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then I was like, well, I can't do that again. So I'm done with April Fool's Day jokes.
There you go. 20 years ago he did it. Now you get nothing from him today.
No.
Coming up next, Matt
I am
Murphy.
the April Fool's Day joke.
Look at that.
Hello.
He's straight ahead. You guys have a good one. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Good afternoon. It's 3 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, filling in for Ken Weaver. We'll have a forecast in our first traffic report of the afternoon coming up. In a bipartisan vote, the House voted to stop Republican leaders from blocking an impending vote on proxy voting for new parents. The vote failed 206 to 222, with 9 Republicans siding with a unanimous Democratic caucus to form an unusual bipartisan coalition. House GOP leaders have now canceled votes for the rest of the week. House Speaker Mike Johnson talked to reporters after the vote.
Well, it's a very disappointing result on the floor there. A handful of Republicans joined with all the Democrats to take down a rule. That's rarely done. It's very unfortunate in this case.
An additional round of President Trump's tariffs are set to go into effect tomorrow, but today investors, they're somewhat worried as to what this may mean for U.S.-based businesses. The tariffs are additional charges on imports into the U.S.,